softball that we went to the
The fundraiser.
fundraiser.
Let's see.
They signed it, sent me the card, so I thought I'd share it.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and call to order. Marvin's walking in right now, so that's good. We'll go ahead and call to order the Safety and Service Committee meeting for Tuesday, April 5th. We have Doug is here, I am here, Mayor Dutcher is here, Jack, Chief Dana Bailey, and Teresa. Marvin is on his way in right now. Action on minutes from March 1st. Are there any updates, changes, anything like that?
Nope.
I'll move to approve.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on, we have construction project updates. Jack,
Yeah,
this is to you.
okay. Let's start with the new water tower. Made contact with them. I think I said this the same last month, but they've got to wait till the weather's warm enough to paint the tower. But I told them again, we want a date when that's going to be raised, after it's painted and raised, because that could be an event to watch. But they're hoping the end of this month, we get up to constant 50-degree weather, the metal warm enough to paint. So that's what we're waiting on there.
Do they have a, I know we've talked about it, do they have a design or what they know we want it to look like?
We are, as I was told, we're going to have a carbon copy
Okay.
of what we have. There is still time to change that if somebody has another thought, and Johnstown is going to prominently face the new Intel business.
Consistency and branding, right?
Consistent distance
All
and
right,
branding.
so, sounds good.
But if there is a thought, or if council wants to make a change, I need to know sooner than later. So that's important.
Okay.
Edwards Road.
Hello.
As you know, we got the project, and I have instructed our engineers to send out the notice of award. Shelley Company got it. Our portion of this project is $72,476. So much to my pleasure, it was actually a lower bid than last year on our portion. And a lot of that obviously had to do with the time of the year it was bid. And I was a little worried about oil prices and such that, but the numbers came in good. And of that $72,476, these are the estimates. Ohio Public Works will pay $33,372 of that. And so our portion of this project is $39,104. And as long as everything comes in on this budget and on time, that's probably less money than we originally thought our portion would be, because we thought we were going to be right at $100,000, and then there was a 38% portion. So we ought to be in good shape, and as long as there's nothing unforeseen, we ought to come in under our original budget. So that's wonderful news.
Great news.
East Jersey, the road and sidewalk replacement and repair heading into the trailhead. As you know, we've got that. We are sending out letters right now because we will have to have work easements, not takes of property, just work easements to put forms and things up for the new sidewalk. And so those letters have been sent. There is, I think, 5 trees clear down at the bottom right-hand side, the big trees that I think 3 of the 5 are actually completely dead. We have to get sign off from those folks to have those removed, and I think 3 of the 5 have already responded and said, please when, how fast can you get them down? They are dangerous trees at this point, in my opinion. And we plan to bid that project mid-May. I wanted to do it now, but legally, bid numbers can only be held for 60 days before award. Because the sooner we bid, the better off you are, because contractors are filling their slate. But I'm letting different contractors know that this project's out there and becoming. So mid-May, we will bid this for construction start mid-July.
And we have to bid it because it is a part of the overall project, which exceeds the $50,000 threshold, correct?
I moved off the trees, I'm just talking about the road and sidewalk portion of the project.
Just the road and sidewalk?
Yeah, the
I'm sorry.
trees, we will, as we did on Westview and did on 62, we do way better contracting those separately and privately. So the money's added into the project, but we don't bid that because we just save a tremendous amount of money. Deg's Tree Service,
Yeah, okay.
Tom and Pam's Tree Service, they all come in at a better price than if you have a contractor
I missed that
bid it.
transition.
So I'm sorry.
No, I got it. We're good.
Contractors probably just have them come in and have somebody else come in and do it anyway.
Oh, yeah, and then there'll be a markup
right?
Yeah.
on that markup,
All the
so.
poles are moved, aren't they?
All the
Sorry,
poles are
poles.
moved and the gas company
It's been in there.
still working out there, but they know we have a start date. I've told them a start date of June 1st. Actually, the start date is July 1st, but we have planning and things that have to happen in there too. So hopefully they'll be out of the way for that.
So just from a, okay, let me speak here. From a logistics standpoint for East Jersey, the terminus of that is before Track Street, or does it encompass the Track Street intersection?
It encompasses the Track Street intersection.
So how are folks going to be able during this construction period to access the bike path and the parking lot?
The bike path in the parking lot, I'll have to work with the contractors to get them in and out. But as we do, like on a mill or something like that, you can drive when the
Okay.
road's milled. They'll just have to build ramps up and down. Now, the actual day that we're putting down the base and the actual day that we're putting down the top coat, it will be closed.
Sure,
But, sometimes you have to break a few eggs to bake a cake.
absolutely. No,
So-
I just thought about that right now.
No, but it won't
Because it'll
be-
be in summertime.
Yeah, but it will not be closed the entire summer.
Perfect.
It'll be spot days there, and we'll make the contractors know that they've got to, keep that open and available
Excellent.
for those folks.
Cool.
Also, the lease with the school bus company to put antenna up on top of the tower and then supply lease payments at a reduced rate because they're also going to maintain all the equipment. I finally got the lease back from the solicitor, Yaz. There had to be a few modifications in it, but it's ready to go and sign, and I plan to sign that the end of this week, so that project can be started. Wastewater department, wastewater expansion. We have now found a company that will come in and do that EPA stream study that is required before we can finish or start design of the new wastewater plant. And as you recall, the EPA would normally do that, but due to the pandemic, they said they're 2 to 3 years behind, and if we wanted this project to stay on pace, we'd have to find our own company, which we did find through Prime Engineering. And the original cost on this was an approximate $300,000 to run this stream study. We did work with the EPA. We've got it down. It's $50,000, but that's the number. And to keep the sewer plant project on pace, I will be asking council to approve $50,000 come out of the sewer budget to do the stream study, which will run from June through August during low flow, which is when the EPA needs that to happen.
When will you be asking for that?
Tonight,
That's 50,000 instead of 300.
yeah. And that was working with the EPA, and I think a little help from the governor's office saying, you can't stop these people, we have this Intel project. And now, what we need to ask Dana, on a couple of these items is we have bonded money still. I don't know how much of that wastewater bonded money is still out there. I don't know what number we have committed to other projects. I don't think much.
1.3, no. 760,000, I think is what I show left over from bonded that we put towards the wastewater.
So,
Unless we've chipped away at anything from that.
well, and that's why we'd have to lean on Dana to get the
Yeah.
accurate numbers for us, but I think there should be plenty in there to cover this $50,000 stream study to keep the wastewater project on pace.
And maybe this is the right time or not, but we had a meeting with the Ohio Department of Development. We presented our wish list. It included paying for the entire water plant expansion, the wastewater expansion, the water line expansion. There were no commitments made, however, I know that in following up that it's being discussed. They know we need those funds, they know it will help with the Intel project and assorted other things. And they want us to have that project. What pot it comes out of, or whether it comes from, they're also exploring federal funds under the Biden build whatever program. I said, I don't care what bucket it comes out of, but if we can get money out of this, then we're gonna try to get money out of it. So anyhow, in addition to that, I'm gonna pass these out. Jack I came up with a list of, I wanted to give them something. And these are possible,
Chip, you have one more?
Yeah, here.
let me have it there. Just to give them something, so they have it in their hot hand and what we were talking about. So we asked for the moon. I hope we get it. No promises, but I know it's being discussed in our follow-up. We also asked for a number of road improvements. We asked for a mobility hub and told them what we're up to there. And we're also going after federal dollars for that. We also stuck the recreation and the Raccoon Creek Park trails in there. If the state's gonna pay, we might as well grab it. And some planning dollars. And then besides that, as I was leaving the room, Director Mahalik made a joke about the Mastodon. I said, oh, it's funny you ask. And I talked about the replica, and I said, it's only $80,000. And she said, well, let me see what I can do about that. Since she controls the entire Ohio travel budget, she didn't bat an eyelash. So we're gonna follow up with her and send her some information on the Mastodon replica and see what we can do. Because she was very accommodating and wants to be accommodating. And in the meeting was Director Mahalik, Scott Ryan, who was our former state representative, who's now the governor's emissary to Licking County and is handling all the meetings with Licking County officials, and he'll be here Friday to have a meeting with all of the mayors. He had a meeting earlier this week, I know, with all township trustees. So we have direct access that way. The governor also sent Laurel Dawson, who's his top assistant, to the meeting. When she walked in, I was like floored. And she and I have been trading emails back and forth, and she wanted me to know and you all to know that they understand our predicament. They understand and are trying to help us every way they can. And she wanted that to be known by all of you. So I'm sharing that tonight. So, what? Oh, that's all right, Teresa. That's okay. So anyhow, that was that meeting. It was an excellent meeting. I thought we really accomplished something. And we have follow-up to do with that. I also have set up a meeting for Thursday with Don Jakeway. As many of you know, Don grew up here in Johnstown. He's the former director or deputy director of the Ohio Department of Development, and he also has a direct line to the governor and has been talking with him about the Intel project for a significant amount of time, and he wanted to have lunch, and I said, sure. And, but he is back in Ohio, and he's also, I think he was city manager of the city of San Antonio for a while. So anyhow, he's back, and he and the governor have been chatting about how they can help Johnstown. So we have their ear. Now we're going to have to cash in on it. So just to have their ear doesn't do us any good, but we cash in on it, we're farther along. But I just wanted you all to know about that meeting.
Well, I'm encouraged by this list with at least the visual having water and sewer at the top. Because to me, water and sewer is paramount when it comes to,
And the director asked some questions, and one of the questions was about, well, does Licking County doesn't have a regional water plan? And before I could say anything, Scott Ryan jumped right in, and he took off and told her the whole background on how Johnstown got cut out of the deal that the county commissioners made with the Southwest Licking. And he knew the whole story.
He told that.
He told that right out loud, and he said Johnstown basically got, I won't use the word, but that we got a raw deal. And we shouldn't have been cut out. And that was, he told all that. And that was interesting to me that before I could say anything, he jumped in and said, let me tell you about that. And for him to say it to her, because he
Carried some weight.
Yeah, he works with her, so that was good. So good things are happening. Just takes a while. So I wanted to share that with you guys.
Okay, so at that point, to roll back, I will be asking council to get these people under contract, because our situation is, we know the job has to happen between June and August. They have an opening. We called 3 different companies that are already booked up. So, not that we have to come up with money today, but we have to go into contract with them. So I'm going to ask for approval for this $50,000 so we can go into contract, so they can get us in their planning schedule to.
And we can ask for the $50,000 to be paid by somebody else.
Yes.
or refunded or some
repay us.
shape or
Yeah,
For that study.
and that's my view on this,
We can't-
but
They
we,
can't wait 3 years either. So.
but we cannot move forward on the sewer plant design until this is done. Because this stream study will tell the EPA what type of equipment we have to put in the plant. And of course, we can't design the plant until we know what the result of the stream study is.
Well, let's stay on this $50,000 then. I guess Marvin and Doug, do you guys have any questions from safety and service perspective about this?
Nope, it's needed, we need to go with it.
Sounds to me like we're saving 250.
So I'll go ahead and make the motion from safety and service to move forward with the study at $50,000, provided verification of funds from the finance director.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so 3-0 from safety and service. You have 100% of finance committee here. Chip, do you have any?
I have no problem with it, and we can, and I, as I said, I will start beating on people to pay us back the $50,000.
All right.
Yeah, and I think it can be replenished. I really believe from what I'm
And
hearing.
then we'll spend it for something else.
Yeah, but this will
Whatever.
keep the project moving.
Yeah.
Now I need you to grab a hold of your chair arms, because this is the big one coming. We're gonna talk water plant. Yaz and I have been going back and forth on the contract. We think we got it ready to sign. As you know, we're ready to go with Jacobs to start Phase 2, which is the actual design of the water plant. The estimated cost for the water plant is $14,500,000. The design for the water plant is $1,200,000. This is less than 10%, and 10% is usually a pretty standard number for design. So I'm not having too much problem with the number, it's just the size of the number of what it is. So in talking with Jacobs, Chad Roby, who is their financial expert, who you met here, he said they've already sent Johnstown in for the nomination for the no interest funding. And we will know that we made that nomination in May. They are willing to start the design because they are so confident, he made phone calls, that we are going to get that funding to keep this project on track. They will not bill us until after we are announced and the money is available.
Are those state dollars?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, well, playing devil's advocate, what if you're not on the nomination? He said, let me make a couple phone calls. He made the calls, he called back, he says, we're in good shape. You will not see a bill from us until the nomination and the money comes through. But if you want to get this project, so we're opening the doors in May of 2023. He said, we've got to continue and start design now. I contend that we got to pay the design dollars anyway. The money will come through this nomination. He actually made some calls after I tried to play a little devil's advocate with him. They have assured him this is going to go through. And so I am asking not for dollars, but for council, safety service, and then to council to approve the signing of the contract so they can start design.
You,
Did you have a question, Brian?
yeah, the budget I got here, Ben, it shows that the water replacement improvement fund's got, started out with 2 million, it's got 2,115,000.
So the money I'm quoting is from the bonded, which is outside of the regular fund, if you will. That, what you're looking at from a budget standpoint is all encompassing. So yes, absolutely. My question about this, let me just say on the surface, personally, I don't have a problem with it, because you're exactly right. The design has to be paid for, period. It's gonna take a while. In the interim, we can be looking at other funding sources and things like that. Just from the sheer bonded money standpoint, it looks to me like we have right around 1.2 million in that wastewater, or in the water treatment plant upgrade line. That would cover the entirety in cash, right? That,
I'd hate to spend it all right
But we
there,
don't
but-
want to spend that cash if we can get those funds from some other source.
absolutely there.
I think
I'm just
Ben's
talking-
what's saying if they don't get it,
We have a safety
Right,
net
what's
behind
the-
it.
what's
scenario,
the
we have the
backup?
money to pay it.
Keep the
Absolutely.
backup.
Yeah,
As a
that's-
backup.
I
that's the plan
agree with
B.
that.
And that's why, if they won't do that, we have that, we've got the lever about, the zero interest piece. I feel comfortable about moving forward. My question, though, is that if we do get that, this is not factored into our 10-year plan.
That's
With
if we have to
respect
pay
to-
it back. If it's given as a grant, then
Absolutely,
there's no
harm,
paying
no
it
foul.
back.
Absolutely.
Which is what we want.
But in terms of covering all of the bases, I think it would be interesting to see how, if we have a zero interest loan at that 1.2 million and we decide not to use this and we're going down that path, how that factors into our overall multi-year debt service for the water fund.
Now, if I can expand a little farther, Jacobs is looking at multiple funding sources, so we can choose the best rate, or some of them going to be partial principal forgiveness, partial grant. They are looking at this first funding with roll of nomination. This could fund the whole thing.
Sure.
Or if they find a better route, or if we get money from the federal government or the state, we could simply pay this off, or this we would be allowed to roll into a better funding line if they find it.
This timing has really worked out well, hasn't it?
Well,
I hope so.
Yeah, so,
so that's where we're on that. So like I said, what I am asking, I understand exactly what you're saying. And it is good that we have that 1 million plus still of the bonded money that is available to do this type of work if we need it as a backup.
yeah, yeah.
But is when you look at the water report from Terry Nichols from the water, you see the water
It's a nice
usage
jump.
is already starting to
Yeah.
up. And it's not because it's hot, it's because we have longer daylight and we have more houses.
Yeah.
And I do have a concern for this summer. I truly do.
Well-
Because we hit 80% last year, but that's why we get this next tower up. I'm going to feel better. The sooner we get it up, the better. But I do think we need to continue movement on getting this new water facility built, and that would start with me signing the contract.
Well, let's stay on this then. I guess Doug and Marvin, do you guys have any comments or call-outs or questions about this one?
Nope, I feel like you do. As long as we have that backup plan for the design, I think we're good.
Yeah, I agree.
And by the time they get through the design, then we should know where our funding
Yeah.
is going to come from.
Well, that was a part of the presentation even that they showed us, right?
How much was the design?
1.2.
1.2 million. I know but you know, when I looked at it, generally you'll see engineering be about 10% of the price of the project. They're actually below 10%,
Cool.
which was good.
Good.
And the total project was
14,500,000. Of course, I am hoping the bids are better than that. If we could get our transportation issues and hauling issues settled in this country, where we can move steel and we can move things across the country, by the time we go to build this, we could see better prices.
Right.
If another pandemic hits, we could see worse prices. But here's the thing about a bid: we can always bid and not build.
Well, I don't
But
know
with
if
auxiliary
we're gonna need help.
Intel,
We're gonna need grants or something.
Yeah,
things, I think we're gonna find a lot of funding streams to help this, because even the EPA has been told from the governor's office, these smaller communities that are surrounding this Intel, they're gonna have to have water improvements, they're gonna have to have sewer improvements, because of the anticipated housing and auxiliary factory needs
Well,
that Intel's gonna create.
can we send amendment into your wish list?
Sure. We'll get a chance to revise it and visit with them again about it. So if you want to put something else on this list, by
No,
all
I mean
means.
the figures.
Ah.
What's that?
The figures, you got 14.5 on here for water expansion.
Yeah.
Well, that's for double that.
Well, we didn't need that much, so I was trying to give them real jacket.
Well, I tried
came up with the
to put
numbers.
together realistic numbers,
That's fair.
We'll ask them for something else and get the
Well-
other 14 million.
Would it be realistic? You're talking about expansion of 1 million gallons, right? Would it be realistic at this point in time to make it a larger expansion?
Well, before we could get into that, I've got to have another well field study.
And where?
That's why it didn't sound to me, based on that wellfield study, that we would have a tremendous amount more capacity at this moment.
I truly believe we could get to 3 million. I really, really do.
Do you?
But we
The
didn't.
study seemed a little,
Well, we didn't run the pump study to check the recharge under that hard of a run. And that's why the original group said, well, we want to do a lot more study, we want to do a lot more pumping. So we got a second opinion, and which is from Egan and Associates, and they said, oh no, you got the 2 million, it looks like you may have 3, but we won't say 3, but you've got the 2. We know that, because they want to run an additional test.
I think that's, the aquifer with this development is going to have a lot more use outside of us that
Yeah.
maybe isn't factored into the scenarios that have run thus far. I agree with you with respect to, getting there at some point based off of this study. Right now, I don't know if you can project out confidently based off of what's coming in and on what additional draw that well aquifer is going to have.
Here's where we're at though. If our wells, let's say the wells we currently have, if somebody drops in and starts pulling 20 million gallons a day out to feed something else and we lose our upper aquifer because the water table drops, whenever we know that plant or whatever that is coming to our aquifer is coming in, that's when we need to have our eyes on what's going on and we need to comment. We need to get in and say, now listen, we have an aquifer that's sitting at about 150 to 165 feet. We're using it for Johnstown. You drill deeper, you pull that water away from us, you owe us some sort of remediation for taking that water away. So if Intel would decide to drill their own or make their own plant and pull things, and I'm not saying they will or won't, but let's say if that would happen, we got to have our eyes and intention so we can have our aquifers being checked for drawdown as they pump.
And that's my concern.
I keep hearing these rumors about Intel putting a plant in.
I've heard the same rumors.
Well, my thoughts on that is that they're in a position to make chips. They're not in the water position. And I think a lot of those things were settled before they ever decided to come here. Their electric, gas, water and sewage, they had commitments on that stuff before they ever started to come to Ohio.
Well, they had commitments for Fab 1, 5 million gallons. But my understanding is that can expand up to 4 or 3 additional times.
8.
Sorry, 8 additional times. If each fab needs 5 million gallons, somebody's got to come up with a heck of a lot of water. And I also have an understanding that the city of Columbus said you only get in the first 5 million, then you're on your own. Now, will Columbus change that thought and go to, we have a Columbus representative sitting down at the other end of the table, but before they build the next fab, they got to have water come from somewhere. Now, will each fab need the same amount of water? That I don't know.
Well, supposedly there's a recycling facility at $162 million that they are building on their property.
This is not supposed to use a third of the water they're using in California. They're going to recycle the water and just replenish it.
Well, boy, with the amount of water in California, you'd think they'd institute this out there quickly.
Yeah, I don't know.
So again,
Something we
based
gotta
on
pay
what
attention to.
we're saying here, I think we're on target. Once we get possibly under construction with our 2 million, maybe we should step up and start testing our wells for 3 million. But we always want to be in the look of any ground that would annex in, that in any park that is built, we want to have it designed so we can put raw water wells in that park. Any ground that's annexed in, we need to look at that.
That's fair.
And speak with whoever's annexed and say, hey, you're going to build a park, but it's not going to be shaped like this or that, because we have to have the 300-foot radius around each well, and we got to have an alley to get raw water back to this plant.
That's a good idea.
So again, many things in the water sewer that we have to really pay attention to as this happens over the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, if there aren't any more questions about the design piece, I'll go ahead and make the motion to move forward with signing the contract for the design phase at 1.2 million.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chip, do you have any reservations?
No, none. I think it's great.
So we'll bring this up to council as well and get some
We'll try to-
feedback and.
Get it paid back.
Okay, last item I have is the design on the Duncan Plains water main is complete, and I have went ahead and told them to forward that. This is Prime Engineering. This is the water main that goes from the new Commerce Center to 62, tying the two 12-inch lines together
This is the loop.
and punching the 16-inch under the road
Yeah.
at 62 in Duncan Plains and under the road at the new Commerce Center to the other 50 acres across the road. I've told them to send that to the EPA for approval to install, which is our next step. And I've also told them at the same time to begin to look for funding sources to put that in. That's a $700,000 job. So we can get the design done, we can get the PTI done, and I've got them looking for funding on that. And again, I agree with Ben on all of these items. We're talking about huge numbers and long paybacks. But I think over the course of time, we're going to find out what money is coming in from the government versus what we are actually going to have to do. So we're not committed to any more than the 1.2 million here. But by the time we get to construction, I think we would have a better handle on where the funding is going to come from.
Yep.
You remember when they redone 161
Yes.
to Albany? And they took it, it was what, 25 or 30 down on the list, and it moved up to number 1. You remember why it moved up to number 1? Wexner done the engineering on it, moved it up to number 1 and paid for it. And the state funded it.
Yep.
So if we get the design and stuff done on this stuff,
We're ahead of many people who are asking for money
Absolutely.
to do the design. That's why we were usually so successful on Ohio Public Works. We went ahead and put the money up front. We had it designed and ready to go instead of asking for the dollars for them to
Well,
design.
you know what you want. You're not rolling the
Yeah.
dice. This is
Well, I know
where
you're-
we're going. This is what we need. Let's spend the money and get it out there and show that we've got skin in the game and we're committed.
well, I know you're serious when you already put money in,
Yep, absolutely.
ready to go.
Yep. So that is a lengthy list, but all the projects I can think of at this
I
moment.
could check a couple off the list already that I had on here.
So,
The call out that I had with
your
water and
list.
sewer as we're going into these design phases, and I think I had brought it up to you before, is with the size of these plants. Personally, I think that it would be interesting to understand the solar application with respect to renewable energy with these plants. Maybe not in total, but in some part, just as a general call out. Purely an interest, I think we've talked about it in some capacity over the last several years. But as we're upgrading these plants and as that technology improves, I think solar might be an interesting piece to see if it could be incorporated into these designs.
I just,
when we get phase 1 for the wastewater department, I asked that question of Prime Engineering to investigate that, and there will be a section when we get the phase 1 report to cover solar, wind, alternative power applications.
Awesome.
They said, generally speaking, they're more expensive to put in, they don't have the longevity and life of standard equipment, and they cost more to operate because the replacement costs are more. However,
ROI.
if the community is more concerned with the health of the planet and well-being of green technology versus the dollars it takes to maintain the alternative energies, they can design and build it anyway. He did give me an example. I think it was Wilmington, Ohio, 10 years ago. They had an upgrade and made it all solar. They're tearing it all out now and going back to conventional work because the cost was too great. The battery storage life was not. Now, that doesn't mean in the last 10 years they haven't made improvements.
Sure.
But I did ask them to investigate that. We did not look to investigate that at the water department simply because it doesn't have as many applications that would work. So we will have that in the report.
Okay.
we just got an estimate on our house a few months ago. It's been less than 6 months. And to put the solar on the back of our house, which faces south, and there was plenty of room on the back side so you didn't see it from the front, it's a 26-year payback. And that doesn't take into any account for the replacement.
Just status quo.
26-year payback.
And it was just an interest as I was thinking about it, some of the literature that we get set. And ultimately, obviously, it's going to come down to ROI, and the investment and the priorities at the time the decision's made. I just thought it was an interesting application to look at.
I bet the
But-
payback in Arizona would not be as much because, well, simply because sunlight. You know, here we have so much gray time.
That's fair.
I agree.
I think you'll find in the next 5 to 10 years, Ohio, they'll have better panels, and the payback will be shortened a lot because people are more interested.
More
in it.
efficient, maybe.
More
The
efficient
biggest problem they said they had in Wilmington is still the battery life and the storage power during the winter time. There just was not enough strength in the battery to keep things running, even though they were relatively new batteries. Extended periods of gray and cloudy just is really tough on the solar application.
Large-scale energy storage is
Yeah.
a difficult problem that has a lot of smart people trying to figure that out now, be it from any type of renewable resource, water, solar, wind. But it's just the storage of it and what capacity you are most efficient and have the least spent to retain the most. It's just,
The big windmill up there by Sawmill, I talked to Prime about that because I said, what about wind power stuff? He said, that's one of the biggest things that was put in this area. And he said they're very lucky when it breaks even.
I heard it loses money.
Well, okay, maybe that was the same thing. He said they're very lucky when it breaks even.
You've seen all the ones out by Palm Springs in California.
Yeah.
I've driven by those several times. And they've been in, 15 years, 10 or 15 years. They look like a bullet with the blades on them. Less than half of them work, and they ordered all of them from China, and they can't get parts for them. That was several $1 billion they spent on them. And they don't work.
Well, like all equipment, they wear.
Sure.
They wear out, bearings, shafts. But no, if somebody could ever get the technology right
Well, it's getting
and
better.
in the right areas of the country, I think it's viable.
yeah,
But we will have a
That's good.
section in the report.
good to hear. Okay. That was the only question I had on any of the construction project updates. I don't know, Doug or Marvin, if you had any other questions or anything. You did not touch on it. Item number 4, the Pulte traffic signal. I know a couple weeks back we had the prime estimate put out in front of us, and you were going to use it for some beach reading. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you had been able to look that over, or if there's any updates or anything like that.
Well, to pull that all together, we needed an actual and good estimate from Pulte on what the light in intersection was going to cost. So put a call into them the other day, and they said, oh, well, we didn't know you wanted us to do anything because you were looking at an alternative route. And I said, that's not correct. You know that's not correct. We told you to proceed as if you were going to put the light in, then we could get our engineers to review it. We'd have an actual estimate of what it was going to cost you, and then we would decide whether we would divert those dollars to an alternative route. So that being said, the actual time isn't set, but tentatively next Monday, I'm meeting with Tom Hart. I'm having Yaz come in. I called Yaz, their engineer and our engineer, and I told Yaz, plan to walk out of there with them knowing they have to supply us a bond for the light. And what we're going to do in that meeting is discuss how large that bond is going to be. Because at this point, with the number of houses that are left, I said I am not willing to wait for them to now do a design. So we're going to have two choices. We're either going to stop the building permits, which will also stop their hearts, but it will create action,
All right.
or we will get a bond to cover the expense. So I told him to be prepared to walk out of there with a bond amount.
Or he'll walk out there and tell you we can't do that because they'll sue us.
It's gone on long enough, man. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Well, it's getting down to just what I predicted a long time ago,
Nope.
that they will not do anything and then they'll build it out and walk away.
Well, and that's why I actually had that conversation with Yaz. That's why I asked him to be at that meeting, because I said action will be taken after that meeting and we're gonna have to go from there.
Can you send out an update after that meeting and let us know
Yes.
where it stood?
Yeah. Because I had told Yaz, my intention is to walk out of that meeting with a bond from Pulte that will cover the cost.
Where they're gonna get onto you, Jack, is they will not want to put in red lights and the arms and stuff like we put in at Kroger's and different places. They won't wanna do that. That's our requirement, and they'll probably wanna argue about it.
Not only do they know that's a requirement, and Bailey forwarded all of our specs and specifications to them. We did that, 6 weeks ago?
Months ago.
Okay, we did that once we found out Jim hadn't forwarded the other information. So we know that, and I also told Jim Davison that is not all. I said that entrance into Bigelow Drive, we don't know if that's set up correctly to have a light there. We're probably gonna have to have a right turn, a left turn, and an entry. And I said, I'm also very concerned about the hillside, cars pulling out during the winter and starting up that hill. He said, well, our obligation is only a light. I said, no, that is not your obligation. Your obligation is a light in a safe intersection. So I said, when you sent the estimate of $175,000, that's why we just turned around and sent it back and said this, no. Prepare something for our engineers to review.
Well, I'll ask council tonight if they will get on board. If that meeting is not successful, the next day the permits will be cut off.
I say we cut them off now.
I would like to see if we can come with the bond, because I think the bond does the same thing.
I think I agree with Ben. It's gone on too long, Jack. I just put a stop to it now. That shows them that, hey, that
Well, they've
information
got-
got back to us.
It'd only be one day.
They've already got
Or 3
a
days.
meeting
6
scheduled,
days.
and I think we should notify them in writing, if nothing else, that if something is not established that day, that the next day the permits are stopped by the council, regardless of what the lawyers and things said. Yaz is gonna come out there and say, well, if we stop them, if we do this, they'll sue us.
Well, Yaz knows our intent, because I explained our intent to him today. And Bailey, I want you to step in here. The last time we talked with him, do you believe we were confusing at all?
No.
And if you believe we were, I want you to say so. I thought I spoke as clearly to them as I possibly could, that they needed to move forward with their design and get it to us for review.
Yes. That's what I got to.
You know, I told Jim Davison from Pulte, I don't know how anyone is confused. I don't know how there was possibly any confusion. So, and Yaz knows, we will either come out of there with an agreement on a bond that will then be executed within, I don't know what's reasonable, 5 days, or if we can't agree on a term, then I am fine with the council saying to go, as of this date, we'll shut off.
If you don't come out there with the agreement that day, we shut them off the next. I'm tired of fooling with them, Jack.
I agree with that, but to execute the bond will take you've got to go
All
to a
right,
bank, you've got
if
to
we
get
let
it.
them,
I say do
okay,
it.
If we have an
You want
agreement.
to do it
if you
now.
have an agreement,
Yeah. They
Yeah.
jerked us around too long.
go ahead and cut it off the next day. They'll get the bond a lot faster, I'll tell you that. If we don't have an agreement after that meeting that day, cut them off the next day.
Well, I will absolutely do what council wants me to do in
I'll
this
make the motion in
situation.
the regular council meeting.
I'm on board with 412. I understand what you're saying, Doug. The fact we have a meeting on the 11th is good, that everybody's coming to the table, and allow that positive intent there. But if it doesn't bear out an agreement that we all really are on the same page with and should be, that 412, you shut it down.
No,
And then at that point,
Well, how many more
I'm
positive
ignorant.
intents are we gonna give them,
well,
Ben?
this is it.
This is the last
this is it.
one.
And then you
Well, we
shut
said
it.
that last
I
time.
know.
But we were moving
But we
towards-
did
Last
reach an
time.
agreement. They got the sanitary sewer
Right.
lift station completed.
They met the requirements
They
of
did
what
meet the
was-
requirement of that.
at that point.
You talking about the last time when we
Oh.
found out that they hadn't got the paperwork?
How many
That
units
was
do
our
they
fault,
have to
not
go,
theirs.
Bailey? Do you know?
Not that many. I don't know off the top of my
60?
head.
60,
I would
50?
say around 60, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at, 60. And that's what I told Yaz, we're not gonna fool around any farther.
Dana?
We're not gonna let them get to 10, 15 houses and then go, oops,
Yeah.
we're
No,
done.
no agreement, my opinion, no agreement, 411, shut it down, 412, 12:01 a.m. Dana, do you know how long it, and maybe somebody else, I don't know, how long it takes to provision a bond at
Should
that
be able to
level?
get it that day.
I don't
You
care.
can get money to
Ben,
pay for it. For
But the
them.
question is, if we come to an agreement, then you move the timetable back to whatever you think it's going to take to.
If we come to an agreement on that date and they bonded, I would want the red light bonded at the stage they're in now. The red light should be bonded at 100%.
But
Oh,
what,
yes.
how far after the 11th? When-
5 days,
So end of the week, essentially,
5 days.
Yeah, by Friday.
by Friday.
We're having a meeting
So Friday,
Monday,
produce the bond.
produce the bond in our hand by Friday.
I'm good
If they
with
don't
that.
have it Friday, they're shut off Monday,
Say they're shut off Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And I think
Friday
I think we should take a letter to the table with us.
Close of business Friday,
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 PM. If they don't have it in our hand by close of business Friday, all work stops.
And I'm fine with that.
I think we should give them a letter from the village at that meeting saying that if they don't produce the bond by the Friday, we shut off.
So deadline one is Tuesday, the 12th. If an agreement is not reached.
At the
And
meeting.
deadline two is 4:15,
5 PM.
5 PM for receipt of the bond at the agreed upon.
At the,
If an agreement is reached,
Village
receipt
office.
of that
City
bond.
office.
Yep.
Well, you know that red light's going up with the arms and stuff on it, Jackie, and that what those run barely.
I told Yaz probably closer with the
$1,000,000.
intersection, probably $700,000-800,000. You know,
Okay.
that's a guess, but I think that's where we're at.
I'd tell them that we want a $1.2 million bond.
Construction always encompasses
Inflates it.
contingencies.
yeah.
And I think the variability of the market would absolutely dictate maybe something a little more than a 10% bump based off of cost of goods and however long it's gonna take to be able to put that in.
Well, some people you can be nice to and try to work with them, and some you can't.
Well, and I felt because Jim had not got them that information, we owed them some time, but we
We all-
don't owe them any more
We,
time.
we all agreed with that, and we all made concessions for that to take it into account, and they haven't done their part of it, Jack.
No, I'm on board, and I'm ready and willing to move forward if this meeting doesn't bear any fruit on the 11th.
Good. Okay. Anything else with Pulte, traffic signal, prime, anything else like that? Let's see, mobility hub. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So I know I had asked some questions within the last 4 to 6 weeks about Etch as the transit, going to some of the transit board meetings and speaking with, I'm blanking on their business manager. Can you remember the business manager's name, Bailey? I can't remember.
For Etch,
No, for the transit board.
Kathy.
Not Kathy. No.
Um,
The gentleman who's the business manager there, I cannot remember his name. But he was asking about Etch, and he was asking about the mobility hub since we were partnering so close with the transit board. And I honestly, I looked at him and I couldn't give him an update because I wasn't 100% sure. So I think I reached out to Jack, just where are we with this Etch contract? And that they were building this proprietary technology at the generosity of the grant from LCATS. And last week I had a conversation with Darlene Maygold,
Mango.
who's the CEO of Etch. Just she reached out as Jack was sending out some correspondence to update on that. And I'll defer to Bailey with maybe some deeper insight. But from my perspective, she was it was very well received. They're on top of it, from what it sounds like. I didn't realize that Bailey and Darlene and Etch and LCATS were having, is it weekly or every
Every
other week?
Friday.
Every Friday meetings about this going forward. So the technology is continuing to be built out. It will ultimately fall under the ownership of LCATS.
It's
which makes
open
sense,
source.
Right, open source, right? And at this point, from what I had heard, they are moving forward with the testing phase next month. It's an app. They've identified at least one driver or bus to coordinate this test somewhere within the county to our business park here, I believe the Commerce Center over here in town. And that they're testing one way, they're testing round trip, they're testing, point of source pickup as well as a home, pickup and drop off and things like that. So the good news is from all of this proprietary technology that could very well help bring a lot of efficiencies to the county transit system is continuing to move forward and was born out of the leadership of the city with respect to the It's For Us grant as well as the mobility hub and everything like that. And again, at no cost to the city because it's a $250,000 grant from LCAT that is funding this, but Johnstown was administering it as the head of the table of this whole mobility hub concept. So that effectively answered my question. I knew that there were deliverables that were still out there that were needing to be taken care of, and with Jim moving, I just wasn't 100% sure where that responsibility ultimately ended up. But Bailey, kudos for staying on top of that and staying in these meetings and moving things forward. I don't know if anything in your weekly meetings has an update or anything that you wanted to throw on there.
We're applying for a race grant that's due on Thursday next week.
There you go. And that's to support what?
That's to cover
Mobility
the
hub.
design and construction of a mobility hub here in Johnstown.
Okay. So,
And if I can jump in
Go for it,
and
yeah.
feed, and I am trying to get Dan Lean to call me back so that we have control of the site that's required for the RAISE grant. We have well, there are a bunch of other forces at play. If you look at Etna and others, Granville, Newark, they're all trying to steal this thing, quite frankly. And we're not going to let that happen. I visited with the director when I had my meeting with the Ohio Department of Development. She said, I sat right here in this chair. Jim Leonard sat right over there in that chair. And we gave our commitment that the Ohio Department of Development was fully behind this project. And that has not changed, and we are going to see it through. So that was pretty direct. In the meantime, and also the Department of Transportation is issuing a letter in support of our mobility hub, and they're not issuing that letter to any others in Licking County. In addition, you have all of the uproar at Licking County Transit because basically you have the head of it has resigned, the number 2 person has resigned. I think behind it all is a desire by the commissioners to bring CODA in and run the whole damn thing, and so they can wash their hands of it. We don't have a problem working with CODA if that's what we're going to have to do. But I think I got a very strong indication when she pointed at me and said, I approve, I wanted this project, I like this project, we're going to do this project. And so I backed off saying anything about, are they trying to move it to 161 and Mink and all this kind of stuff, and we're going for it. And we're working on the RAISE grant. Bailey's doing a great job, and the Seekmans have done the Washington side of it to make sure that we're getting it to the right people and that it'll have some oomph when it's delivered.
Do they realize when they bring CODA in that that brings in a new tax on the residents of Licking County?
No, probably not, but that's up to the commissioners, not up to us. So, but we'll work with whoever we have to work with,
those conversations are happening now.
I know they're,
With CODA.
because I know CODA's up to and the commissioners up to their eyeballs, because I was at a meeting with both the commissioners and the head of CODA, and I asked the question about, what are you doing with Licking County Transit? Because I was trying to find out, well, what's happening with the board? And that's when I was told, back off and stop asking questions, and that was from the commissioners, not from CODA. I got a very nice note back from her saying, nice to meet you, da-da-da-da-da. I'm sure it was. But that's not what I was looking for from her. But, we'll see what happens. So anyhow, we're going for this RAISE grant. Bailey's working hard on it, and we're going to give it a great shot.
Let's go back to that CODA a minute, Chip.
Yeah, Sure.
Here's
I
my-
don't trust them any farther than I can throw
Here's my
them,
prediction. The commissioners get Coda in here, and Coda will take this project that we've started over.
but They may try, but they're not gonna be in a position to tell the director of the Ohio Department of Development that she's wrong and we can't do this project, because she likes this project. So, she made that very clear to me that I approved this project when Jim Leonard first presented it to us, and it's going forward.
It's gone through 2 iterations at this point,
Yeah.
and only grown in scope.
Yep,
And
it has.
partnership and ability to completely overhaul the county, the regional transit
The regional
system.
transit.
It's
It's not just Licking
Licking
County.
It's
Knox
regional.
and Delaware and everything in between.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's where it stands. We're working hard to get this done by next Thursday, and thanks to Bailey.
When you get in bed with Coda, you're just kissing it
Well,
away.
but they're not a part of this, just so you know.
They
Code
will-
is,
They will be.
they are not a part of this mobility hub, except that we will link to them. That they have no role to play at this time, and that may change, but, you know, especially if they take over Licking County Transit, so.
And when they take that over, they'll come in to the state of Ohio and say, well, we have the expertise and the people to run this program out here, so we should be taking care of that.
Well, I don't think they'll get that.
No,
I
I
don't
think
think they'll
they
get their
will.
wish.
Well, I have on here too the Intel updates, but I certainly don't want you to say
not
it
tired.
twice.
I will just do a little thing. We are having a business briefing on Thursday, the 21st, here for all business folks in Johnstown.
14th.
No, it's the 21st.
Okay. Sorry.
It's a Thursday, and it's from 9 to 10:30, and invites are going out tomorrow. And clearly, on the invite, it clearly states that this is for invitees only, and that the community-wide meeting will be held in May. I have to nail down the PAC from the school, and I haven't been able to do that yet. To have it there, have the community-wide meeting there, because it's the largest room we have, and we'll go from there.
Better wait till it warms up and get to stadium.
We may need that, or we may need to have 2 of these, I don't know, but we'll go into the lion's den and see what happens. But this will at least, so committed so far, we have Scott Ryan, we have somebody from One Columbus, and if the Intel person has been named, and it hasn't happened yet, but they know who it is, but they haven't officially announced them. They will bring them to this meeting. It'll be their first public thing. Yeah, I said, Matt, you're gonna throw them into the lion's den. He said, yeah, that we're gonna teach them what they have to learn to answer their own questions. And then we've got Rick Platt, and then the Intel person, and then Alex Fitzsimmons from Grow Licking County as a panel and to answer questions. Our role is to facilitate and to let people ask their questions. That's what I'm trying to do here. And the second piece of that is to on the invite, it clearly says, this is just the first meeting, and there'll be a community-wide meeting held in May.
Who's gonna run the meeting, Chip?
Which one?
The first one.
First one?
Who's gonna be your moderator?
Well, I'm probably gonna moderate, introduce everybody, and then turn it loose. And then I'll walk around with the microphone or something.
What time is that, at 9 o'clock?
9 to 10:30. And we'll give them a cup of coffee and maybe a donut if they're.
And that's an invitation only?
Invitation only. Yeah, to RSVP. Because otherwise, we'll have this room they'll be hanging from the ceiling, thinking this is the only chance they're gonna get to ask questions, and it's not. And we clearly added a line on the invite to say that there's a meeting gonna be held, a community-wide meeting held in May. So stay tuned for further details. Let's see, what else can I?
Well, I put it on there and then
There-
realized that you'll probably have to give an update in council, so.
Oh, I understand.
If you don't
And
wanna say
no,
it
no,
twice.
and there also is this group called
Yeah,
Welcome
right over there.
Intel, which is a Licking County centric committee. It has you know, everybody from Sarah Wallace to I don't know, Shay to, stuck me on there, I don't know why, but Rick Platt. And it's to answer the Facebook crowd and try to get out factual information. It'll be done via a printed newsletter, which will come out occasionally, I don't know, monthly, every 2 weeks, something like that. The county is, or the Chamber of Commerce, I think, is paying the freight, or Grow, one of the other. To hire a professional writer to do the writing. We've had input on the articles. We're gonna kill off the idea of an airport once and for all.
Study the questions about that.
Yeah, it keeps coming up, and then eventually it'll transit from. In addition to that is a website which will say this is factual information provided by the following, and so when they stop doing the newspaper or whatever newsletter, it'll go to electronic, and then we'll update Intel information going forward. So, stay tuned.
You say Sarah Wallace and those people are gonna take care of that Facebook? They're gonna put a page on Facebook or what?
No, it won't be on Facebook at all. They're
Okay.
not gonna use Facebook. We're not gonna use, it's gonna be an official website for Licking County for this group. And, it's the chamber, it's the foundations, it's a number of municipalities, Newark and us and whoever else, can't remember them all. There's like 40 people on the committee so far, and we've split into 3 different groups. I'm in the communications one that's doing this, try to answer Facebook in a realistic,
You can't.
I know, and they'll still do their nonsense, but we're gonna try. And get real information out. So that's what's happening. I can't think of anything else at the moment, but I probably will.
One
Think of
thing, this is Intel thing, the reason
Yeah.
people so upset is they're hearing all the rumors and gossip and mis,
I
Communications is-
completely understand their anxiety. I completely understand they've been through hell with COVID, and they're, working from home, and their kids, whether they're going to school or not going to school, and then you dump this on them. It's too much.
well, the thing is, they're wanting to point fingers and lay blame, and there's no place to point fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like New Albany.
When Intel is here and that person is standing up, they're gonna have to answer their own questions. It's
Well-
not up to us to answer their questions, it's gonna be up to them.
Well, I don't think that even New Albany or Intel has all the answers.
They don't. They don't.
I will say,
They're
the
playing catch-up.
page that Teresa has on the city website, fantastic.
Very factual.
Tremendously informative, and a one-stop location to quell some of those rumors out there coming
And-
from an official source
Right.
that isn't.
And we know that some in the real estate, I won't broad brush them all, that some have made up phony websites, have put out false information in order to gain an advantage in their business. I mean, that's too bad, but,
Surely they wouldn't do that.
yeah, but they have, and we've caught them, and we know who they are. And,
That really surprises me.
so, that's what I got
Well,
so far.
we're actively promoting that page, right, Teresa? Are we?
Yeah, it's on there.
There.
Have you- Okay.
It's on the city website.
It's on a city website and I've shared it on Facebook, so.
What do you think about sharing it on the sign?
On the marquee.
Oh, that's a good idea.
On where?
On the
Uh,
sign up?
Oh, on the sign up front for
Just that
Intel
it's there.
information, go to this
Visit
website.
johnstown.org, yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
That's a good idea. We can do that.
Or we .gov.
Yeah.
or-
Johnstown, I got
Messages
that.
running on the sign right now.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I
why,
just gave her another one today.
There's about 16 messages running on the sign right now.
well, you run it.
I know, I just gave her one today, so.
That's all I had on the agenda. If there's any other business, I'm not sure if there's any other business.
I'll think of something before tonight.
Well, I have a question for the chief that come to me. Laura, for the most part, and I think some degree, Teresa said that they're fielding an awful lot of calls from people trying to get a hold of the police department and nobody's answering the phone. So Laura asked me, she goes, well, Jack, what's going on over there? Honestly, I don't know, but I said, we do have safety service tonight, so I would pose the question to you. Can you tell us what's going on and why so many people are calling into the water line trying to get a hold of the police department?
So Megan Ward's on vacation right now.
Okay?
Just nobody there to field calls.
So when somebody goes on vacation like that, what is your plan of action to cover those types of calls? Or do you have a recording telling them to call somebody else? Or
So we do, it's all set up in a recording. At this point, we need, and I did see the email today, so I need to take a closer look to see how we're going to physically handle it, because I believe that there's still an intent to dissolve the position. And when that happens, we need to figure out what exactly to do, like, because the mayor's court clerk's going to be housed in a different location, and then the police lobby itself will be closed. So at that point, as council knows, and as you know yourself, like, I still physically handle calls myself, so there's a lot of times where I'm not in the office. It's a fair amount of time that I'm not physically in the office. So we do need to come up with a system and a method in order to route those calls and to get the people the answers to questions that they need.
so to carry this forward, just so everybody knows what's happening, Megan was hired as the additional police officer.
That is correct.
Okay, but she has not started her actual shifts covering as a police officer. She's still covering the mayor's court and front office. Or how is that organizationally? How are you handling that?
So, well, right now we're in a hiring freeze. So she has accepted the role as a police officer. However, we're in a hiring freeze right now, so I can't physically actively search for somebody. And that was, I think, covered by you in an email. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm just in a holding pattern.
Okay, so
Wasn't he told her?
she is still working as the mayor's court clerk at
Yes.
this point and covering the front office.
Yes.
And is she being paid as the patrolman, or is she being paid as her old salary?
Her old salary,
Okay.
until we physically figure out.
So we figure out how
figure out
to
what we're gonna
transition
do.
her.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
I have had talks with Diane. I said once, council decides that we can lift this hiring freeze, but I think before we did that, we were going to determine, because if you recall, I'm running back and forth here, we moved to get rid of mayor's court, but then in the very same meeting, we reversed that to keep mayor's court, and then it was to be under further discussion. We have never had the further discussion. And so one of the things that I need to bring up, I'm bringing up here because I do think it falls under safety service instead of just at council. That's why I want to bring it up here is we do need, and this could be a council thing, but for his hiring, it's safety service. We need to decide, are we keeping mayor's court and where we're going to house people? And if we are, we need to get that clarified so we can lift the hiring freeze and we can fill what positions we deem are necessary to fill. Or are we going to decide the other way, not have mayor's court, which creates some other situations, and then we're not going to have that position to fill. But either way, Megan then will move to the police officer's position, and then all court would have to go to Newark. I just think we need to get that determined and settled, so then we can lift the hiring freeze and move forward.
It was my intent to bring it back to the table, and it's never been put back on the agenda because we haven't talked about it. To put it back on the agenda at the council and discuss it, what we wanted to do, all the council wanted to do with it. You and I went down and talked to Newark about it.
Yep.
And we thought it was better to keep it in-house, keep it here in Johnstown. But with all the other things that's happened and stuff, it
It got left
chief
behind for a
got
little.
left behind. And the chief said some time ago, I think he hadn't been here very long, that he didn't didn't want mayor's court involved with the police department. It should be on its own. That's the reason we talked about moving it up to the front office and letting her take care of mayor's court up there.
And,
Nice.
and all I am stating here is, I think we do need to get a time to get it back on our agenda. And I know we have a million things to talk about, so we can get that off the table. How we're gonna handle it, how council wants it done, and let's get it off the table. I do agree that I think the discussion was, not through vote, that it's best to keep it in the village. But then the housing and who's moving and who's where, and then filling a position to keep the police lobby open. I haven't heard one way or another, yes, no, how that's gonna happen. I'm just saying we need to bring that up and get that done.
That's fine. We can add that to the agenda.
So would we?
And if we've made the decision to keep it here, then it's a matter of how we're gonna staff it, or how we're gonna move it to the front office.
Well,
Who's gonna do it?
on March the 15th, I talked to Diane
Yeah,
after they give their report and stuff. And I asked her if she would talk to Megan, because Megan's been, I can't talk to any of these people. I asked her to talk to Megan and tell Megan then that it was my intent and some other council members to advertise the job as a clerk for the mayor's court. And it would be advertised on that position that they had to have mayor's court experience.
So here's a question back to you, Chief. If we are going to keep mayor's court in Johnstown, would Megan rather remain in her mayor's court position and clerk, or would she rather be a full-time police officer?
So I've had this discussion with her, and she says that at this point she does want to move over to police officer.
Okay, well then I think that,
well, then we have to decide if we're keeping it here and then how we're gonna staff it.
and then how we're going to staff it.
You mean the mayor's court?
Yeah. And we move it
I
to the
think
front
we-
office and we,
I think we just advertise for the
yeah,
job.
a position.
If she doesn't want it, there's other people out there wanting it.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, that would only be a part-time position, but do we want a full-time position?
We talked about,
That then we would have that backup administrative person, because I still have to talk with Dana and Teresa and Laura, because Dana's being put under some pressure, I think, because I've had to call her a couple times when she's on vacation, when she's off sick. Do we have anybody else that knows how to run checks? So then when she's on vacation, I have to send her an email, or she's on sick, how are we gonna do checks? Who's your backup in here? And she has been coming in when she's off sick and making sure the checks are available. I think to some degree, whether it's
Have to have a backup.
a training between the three of them, by the three of them, I mean Laura, Teresa, and Dana, we need to have backup for those positions when people are off sick. The same if Laura is off sick and we have customers. Now the thing of it is, well, not really. A customer, when they come in and want to get their water turned off or on, they want somebody to handle that action. I said, lots of times we can put that off and handle it a day later. But I did have a concern when Dana was off sick. I mean, we had payroll checks that had to get out, and she had to, come in and do that, and I don't think that's right for her. We need to have backup. So either this mayor's court person, if we hire him full-time, can then be a backup to those three in the office, or we can have that mayor's court clerk be a part-time position, and the three of them figure out how to, if somebody's off sick, they're generally not off for a long period, or if they're on a week's vacation, they cover those things for the week. But I do think we need redundancy and backup in those positions.
well, it was budgeted in the budget to have a full-time clerk for the mayor's court. And I think that full-time clerk for the mayor's court could be moved up to the front office and use them to back up on the other jobs when they're off and on vacation and stuff. She could be utilized that way and still have the full-time position.
Be great.
I am fine with that. I just want to know what positions and how we're hiring and move in that direction. And begin to move that direction. Let's get this stuff. Those are things that actually, with a little consensus, we can get taken care of and done
wanna have this-
relatively quickly.
Sorry, Jack.
No, go ahead, Ben.
Do you want to have this conversation tonight, or do you want to have it 2 weeks from now?
Well, I've been criticized for bringing things up when it wasn't on schedule. When it wasn't scheduled, I've been criticized and wrote up for that. So I'm not gonna say we talk about it unless we put it on schedule. But it's up to you guys. I'm okay with discussing it
I'm okay
tonight.
talking about it tonight.
And then I
can
think
bring it
there's
up
one.
I can bring it up
Bring it
under
up
safety
under
and
this
service.
and
Okay, now I think there's one more thing that the chief, I've heard him talk about, we haven't talked about it recently, is who mans the office while the office is open for walk-ins. You want to take that just a little bit with where we're at?
I sure will, Jack. So ideally, I absolutely want the mayor's court separated from the police department itself. However, logistically, the way that we have it right now, it does make the most sense to keep the person where they're at because both workstations are within the same area. We wouldn't have to do a lot of moving around or shuffling the pieces. And then that person can fill that dual role there easily. They also would fill and as you know now, there's a lot of walk-ins. There's a tremendous amount of telephone calls that come in. And it does take up a lot of time because people want to see records, they want to know how to pay citations, so on and so forth. So having the resource of the person in the lobby would be great. In addition to that, what council may not see is how much pills we physically take off the street. So if that area is not manned, we have to do something with that drug take-back box because somebody can easily fish out of it. So it's something that has to have physical eyes on it all the time. And over the last 2 years, we've probably incinerated close to 900 pounds worth of pills. So I think it's a fantastic service.
we ever had anybody fishing stuff out of it?
No, because somebody constantly watches it. We've had somebody
Okay.
watching it all the time. So we would have to move the box if there wasn't a person there, and then where we would put it to, or just take the service away altogether.
Or do we put a camera on it?
It still wouldn't work because you're still going to have the problem.
Have you caught anybody trying to fish stuff out?
No, because we're constantly watching them. I mean, if anybody's been over to the police side,
Sounds like a
set up-
safety.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, and you know right where the
I've
drug
used it.
drop-off box is, and you know right that that person's watching you.
Right.
I wonder if it could be adapted to where things can get pushed through in, but some sort of a door or flap that you can't get it back out.
It's set up that way now, but trust me, where there's a will, there's a way. They're little tiny pills.
If they want.
So maybe to Marvin's point, we bring it up as a part of safety and service tonight, but give everybody 2 weeks to think about it,
Think
come
about
back,
it.
put it on as
come
an
back and
agenda
put it on the
item
agenda
for
and
discussion.
vote on it.
That's fine.
Yeah, that works.
Just to bring back ideas with respect to that, Chief, you probably have to rehash that a
Yeah.
little bit when we talk about safety and service here.
I would just like to get clear direction on that so we can
Yeah,
move past that.
I think that's fair.
That's good.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Any other business?
I don't have it. Good.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
How you doing, Louis?
So far,
So far, so
I'm
good.
right behind you.
Did you talk to Don?
Yeah, yeah.
I will say one thing though, it's good at flushing the sewers.
Now, let's not go there.